A lot of you watching this video are either fans of my content or want to know about Warhammer Fantasy lore. So I'm going to go over a brief primer of all the factions as they are presented in the Total War Warhammer series, Warhammer 1 through 3. I love Warhammer Fantasy lore. Now, those of you getting into this section, you most likely are familiar with Warhammer 40k, or you're familiar with Age of Sigmar, which are the two currently running lore for the Games Workshop series. Now, there's also the Old War, the Old World, which is Warhammer Fantasy, but, in the past. So we're going to go over all the factions in this video, and my editor's going to put together the images. So before we go off that, so Warhammer Fantasy was the original Warhammer from Games Workshop. Warhammer 40k came after. That's why it's called Warhammer. The reason why it's called Warhammer is because the main guy, which is Sigmar, has a Warhammer. That is the big secret behind why Warhammer is called Warhammer. Warhammer 40k came 4 years after Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and it's a spin-off that became millions of times more popular than Warhammer Fantasy. I don't know what it is. People don't like fantasy settings. I do. Now, there are many factions in Warhammer Fantasy. From the Empire, Cathay, Lizardman, Ogre Kingdoms, Tomb Kings, etc. Vastly more than Warhammer 40k. Because over the long time of, the decades, they developed more factions, but there are more human factions as well. So we're going to start off on a basic overview of every faction one by one. I'll go in depth in individual videos later. Now, first off, we got the Beastmen. The Beastmen tribe they've been retconned frequently. Now, in order to understand what I mean about retcon, you guys know all about the fucking garbage current retcon people are fucking freaking out about with the Custodes, and people are saying it's canon, not canon, because First Sons, and or like the Wraithbone Eldar retcon in 40k lore. That is a whole separate sort of controversy about the Wraithbone Eldar retcon. I'm not going into that. So the Beastmen has been retconned 2 to 3 times. So there are 3 timelines for Warhammer Fantasy. It is very confusing, but Games Workshop changes their minds frequently. Okay? Because controversial lore, because there's the storm ending, there's the Age of Sigmar, and now there's the then there's the Total War timeline. So there are 3 timelines. Now, Total War Warhammer takes a lot of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, but makes its own timeline in order to make all these characters fight each other. Because for the Orcs, for example, Azag is in the setting in the Total War games, but he's dead centuries before. So all these characters don't exist at the same time, most of them, as I'm going over in the in-depth videos. So the Beastmen, why they were retconned? In the very early settings, when it came out in the 80s to the 90s, it was slightly darker in a different way. Now, both of you who are into Warhammer lore say, Warhammer is already dark, players. I don't know what you mean about how can it be darker. Yes, it is darker, but it was darker in a different way when it first launched. How was it darker? Rape. You notice all the new Slaanesh things focus less on the horny stuff rather than, the sex stuff. They're moving away from that in recent times. Now, it's a popular decision. I'm not going to decry it. It's a very popular because no one wants to read about rape. People want to read about, violence, ultra gore. So there was a lot more rape and incest in the early Warhammer lore and books they allude to. So, in the old lore of the Beastmen, how do they make more Beastmen? They grab They raided human villages. And if you watch Goblin Slayer or Berserk, you know what happens. So that was the old lore. The old lore, that was how they made more Beastmen. The new lore, okay, the canon lore that's more palatable, they just kill people and torture them. That's all they do. They just raid villagers and they eat you. And they do nothing to your woman. They just kill them too. Equal opportunity. And they now have Beast Woman, which are not depicted yet. Except for in like fan art and stuff. They're now Beast Woman. So the Beastmen tribe there are 4 heroes in the Total War Warhammer, but there are more in the setting. I'll go into in the individual Beastmen. So that's what the Beastmen are all about. Right now, they're about pillaging, and that's all, in ultraviolence. They were corrupted by chaos, and became Beastmen. They're ultraviolent. They're inherently attuned to chaos, which are the demon gods, which I'll go over. The 4 demon gods, technically 5 now, in the Age of Sigmar setting. So, their heroes are Taurex, Khazak, Malagar, Mogr. That's the general overview of what the Beastmen are. And they have some kick-ass lore raiding nowadays. They're just very violent faction. So next faction, Bretonnia. One of the many human factions in the setting. So Bretonnia is King Arthur if he was French. So, Games Workshop likes to copy a lot of things and make it mean, like all the pop fanfiction. You know, Obi-Wan, Sherlock Holmes, Kuzo, that character in Warhammer, the Inquisitor, Obi-Wan, fucking Ben, Sherlock Holmes, like that fucking insane name. And they like to reference a lot of stuff. So this is just a King Arthur and French reference. So, Lancelot, like, literally, the Fey Enchantress is Morgana Le Fay. It's Morgane Le Fay. They spell it slightly differently. That's what she is. Rapunce de Leonis. Again, I'm going to butcher all these names. Rapunce. This is Joan of Arc. Literally the exact same lore. She was just a peasant. She was the holy power. She raised up. It's literally Joan of Arc. Every one of their faction is if French famous people combined with King Arthur legends. There's the Green Lady. So they're all about honor and stuff. And they're grimdark. Everything is grimdark. Except for it's less grimdark than 40k now. So the grimdark is they don't care about the peasants. It's a feudal knight society. So in a lot of the lore in the books, and even in the games, it's hilarious how much they don't consider peasants human beings. Like when you're having a celebration, one of the options is like, oh, we're doing very good nowadays. The army is doing so well. The knights need a reward. What should we do to help our great kingdom? It's like all these honorable knights, so we can throw them a great feast. However, we need to get food from the peasants, and some of them might starve. Or if we don't want them to starve, we can tax the peasants more to give them more money so they can all be homeless. But it's fine. They're peasants. They need to do it for honor. If there were a good peasant, they would starve to death for the knights, the real heroes, the honorable folk. And as it pains me to say, they are the most honorable faction. They're the only faction with a real honor code that they follow. Just that their honor code just don't consider peasants as human beings as we consider them. They are all good. The knight's duty is to protect the peasants. That's their entire culture. Like they all believe in protecting the peasants. However, if a peasant needs to starve so a knight can have a fancy new set of armor, that peasant needs to starve because the peasant exists to serve the knight, and the knight exists to serve the peasant. That's their lore. That, if you're interested, that's basically summed down into the barest basics. They're an honor-based society, and if you're a peasant, you should be grateful. These superhuman knights are protecting you. Obviously, they go search for the Holy Grail and stuff. There's also the Holy Grail quest. Oh, the big plot twist. I'm going to spoil it. The big plot twist that's not really a plot twist, but that was alluded to in like the very early editions. Very early editions of Warhammer Fantasy, we did not explicitly notice. It was just hinted at. But since they killed the setting, the goddess, the Green Lady, the goddess of Bretonia, is a filthy, dirty elf goddess. Okay? It's a dirty, filthy elf goddess. Fucking piece of shit elf goddess. But she turns out to care of them all. So the reason why this is a faction at all in lore is because the wood elves need a buffer between them and the rest of the humans. So they situate between the wood elves and everyone else. So this entire faction's sole purpose is to provide human bodies for all the fucking demons, the orcs, the beastmen, all the other dirty non-elves. They're just a human wall on their border to protect the wood elves, the forest. That is basically the gist of it. And the elf goddess pretend to be their goddess, the Green Lady. And she uses her elf magic, her dirty elf magic, to power up the faction and make the knights. So their entire concept of their society was a lie. That was a grim, dark version of it. Those dirty elves tricked us. Tricked us good human beings. Those dirty, filthy elves, okay? Every setting, all of them are liars, except for the dark elves. The dark elves never trick anyone. We know what they're all about. The only good elf is a dark elf. They have slaves. They enslave us. They're upfront about it. They don't lie. They don't look down on us as much as the dirty high elves and the wood elves in this faction. Dark elves, great. Wood elves, garbage manipulators, okay? Dirty tree huggers. So, the magic the Green Lady gives us humans make them super buffed up fucking Spartans or Space Marines in this faction. So, this faction has the only thing equivalent to a Space Marine in the form of the Grail Knights. So what happens is, once you become a Knight Errant, a page, like the old medieval society thing they try to spin off, you go on a quest, which is, I think, is fucking stupid. Like, it's not really a search for the Holy Grail. They just, quote unquote, search for the Grail. They get the Grail from the Green Lady. They drink from the Grail. And they get superpowers. They are the strongest regular humans in the setting without using chaos power. They're strong enough to battle like main characters from the Empire, from the main factions. Just like a random no-name person who drinks from the Grail is super strong and they live for centuries. That's so. A way someone else described it, one of my friends described it in real life. So these guys are just simps. This is a faction full of simps for elves. For all of you elf lovers, if you're a simp for all those elf waifus, this is your faction. And you go hunt for the gamer girl bathwater in the Holy Grail to drink from. The Green Lady, you go and find her fucking dirty bathwater in the Holy Grail, and you just gurgle that shit. She makes you into a tier 5 OnlyFans subscriber or whatever. The highest tier, you get superpowers from drinking her dirty, fucking, filthy bathwater. That's this entire faction's lore. Next is the Chaos Dwarves. The Chaos Dwarves. What's the deal with Chaos Dwarves? They're dwarves, but evil. Why were they evil? Well, when in the way past, when the Chaos Gates break, the Realm Gates, or whatever, the portals that the old ones left behind, to summarize it, it broke down. And there were these bunch of greedy dwarves digging through the mountain on the north side. And they dug and dug, and they were cut off from the rest of the dwarven society. And no contact. And they were invaded by demons. And demons, lots of demons, and were dying and all that. They were deep inside the mountain because they were going super deep. And they were so far away from the rest of the dwarf that they can't contact them. And they thought they were abandoned. Like, oh my gosh, those other dwarves hate us. They left us to die. Those assholes. And the other dwarves were like, those guys were super greedy, but we missed them. We lost them. We had no contact with them. We assumed they all died. Because they were far away because they dug super deep through the mountain to mine some minerals and ore and shit. So, in order to survive, they got into a deal with Hashut, which is a minor chaos god. Still a minor chaos god in Age of Sigmar. Still a minor, not a major one like Nurgle, Slaanesh, Khorne. So, they teamed up with him, and now they're just angry dwarves. And they're so angry, they made their own language, and they speak different. Now, unlike the regular dwarves, they can use magic. And they do other stuff. So they can use magic, but they look down on people who look magic. But they're hypocrites. If you're really good at being a blacksmith, really good at using magic, you become a leader of your society. If you're just basic, you're looked down upon. You're a fucking noob. You use magic, and then later on, oh my gosh, you use magic? You're awesome. So, one of their lore bits is like, they think hammers are for losers. When they bind demons to their engine, they think hammers are for losers. And like, unlike real dwarves, which like love blacksmith hammer, but if you're really good at being a blacksmith, you're really good at using a hammer, well, you're awesome. They're just hypocrites, okay? They're great. And the cool thing about their lore, they don't serve the demons up for their demon god. They summon demons to bind them to their guns. That is their main lore presence. Their guns and siege weapons and artillery. So they torture demons. Demons hate Chaos Dwarves. Because they enslave demons. They're like one of the few factions that actually take advantage of demons. Because back then, Warhammer Fantasy, demons weren't as super big deal as is now in modern lore. Like the Chaos Gods now are like the main bad guys. They're turning out to be like the main big bads. But in the old setting, sure, there was a lot of lore, but they were equally as big of a threat as anyone else, equally as big of a threat as the orcs, equally as big as it, because this is magic. So demons were just regular bad guys. So they weren't like super big bads. So that's how they were able to enslave demons. That's a big core of their lore. So their mortar shells, their cannons, they use demon souls as ammo. So they summon a demon, they bind it to their cannon, and they just shoot out a screaming demon skull at their enemies. They just bind the demons to their guns. They bind the demons to their fucking tanks, their fucking cars that they have them. They're annoying to demons. Like when you're summoned as a demon, you're either summoned and you can make a deal with a mortal and then enslave them. Or you get a fucking Chaos Dwarf summoning you saying, what deal is that? Oh fuck, it's a Chaos Dwarf! Like, and the Chaos Dwarf is just laughing and they bind your soul to their fucking toaster. They're great. But the downside of using magic and binding demons is their body slowly turns into stone. Like the Tau in 40k lore. The Tau in 40k lore... No, not the Tau. Aldari. Sorry. Aldari. I visited. The Farseers. The Farseers in 40k lore also turn to stone when they turn to warp. They copied that from the Chaos Dwarfs. The Chaos Dwarfs was the first one with that concept. So they turn into stone slowly from using magic. just like the 40k version of elves. So, Demons of Chaos, that's just a faction new to the game. It's just a Chaos Undivided faction. So, Dark Elves. Evil Elves. Drukhari. Unlike the 40k setting of Dark Elves, these elves are more PG-13. All they do is capture slaves, torture people within reason, and battle within reason. Drukhari are Dark Elves times 10. So these guys are nicer evil elves. Very nice. However, the big plot twist, the good thing about this faction, is that they have a good point. They have a good point why they turned out the way they did. They weren't super corrupted in any way except for Morathi, the sexy MILF elf. So, what happened in Elven Society is like, there's a Phoenix King, there's a big leader of the High Elves or whatnot, and the Dark Elves were more prone to violence. These were the soldiers. These were the people like the elves sent to fight their wars in far-off places. And they like it. They love fighting in wars, and they like violence. Now, they were looked down upon by the High Elves they were protecting, like the Vietnam vets. Or, veteran soldiers, the military. People look down on the military, even though they're fighting not within our nation, and they come back home, and they can't readjust to life. Except for these Dark Elves, a bit more violent. So, in contrast to the soldiers, who are like the Coast Guards. So the High Elves are basically like the Coast Guard faction. They're just protecting and defending the lands within the borders. So they are inside they contact with the normal citizens more. So the average High Elf citizens like the Coast Guard more than the army is sent off in far off places for revenge or do like far off places shit. So there was an election, and this guy got his election stolen from him, and he defected, and that's how the Dark Elves came to be. That's the gist of it. Basically, Malekith tried to do a January 6th, storm the Capitol, didn't work out, became his own thing, and then it became Anakin Skywalker. So he left it through this fire. So one of the ways to figure out if you're a real leader, have the elf god factions, is you step into fire. If you get burned, you were unworthy. If you didn't get burned, you were meant to be the leader after all. The fire got corrupted, and he got burned, and now he's in a suit of armor. He's Anakin Skywalker. He's Darth Vader. He's in a suit of armor that requires him to live, and he's all about vengeance. Now, back in the old lore, the old setting, it was ambiguous. They hinted that he might have been cheated out, but it never outright confirmed it. They never outright confirmed it. Well, they teased, like, it's heavily implied back then that they were right all along. But nowadays we know that he was cheated. So Morathi, his mom, fucked the old Elven king and got Malekith, and she raised him. And there was an old incest plot. They wrote it out. It's retcon. So Dark Elves were super evil back in the day. They had an incest thing where Malekith and his mom had sort of like a romance thing. They had like hate fuck each other. Heavily implied. It's not, if you Google Morathi Malekith incest, you'll find like a lot of Reddit threads talking about the old lore, about how he and his mom fucked. So it's not canon anymore. But that's what I mean about like the old lore versus the new lore. So the old lore has it like, oh, we don't know if they're right along. Maybe his mom lied to him. Maybe they were never worthy. But with Age of Sigmar and stuff, we know that in the end times, turns out he was supposed to be the High Elf King all along. It's just like all the other elves hate the dark elves. And they're like, we're going to cheat and steal the election from these dark elves. Again, all the elf factions are bad, but the dark elves are the only honest faction in this setting. Next, we have the dwarves. The regular dwarves. Typical fantasy dwarves. They forge, they have guns, they're high tech, they live in mountains. They're short, and they're prone to anger, and they hold big grudges. Now they have a thing called the Book of Grudges, which is pretty famous in Warhammer lore. Everyone knows about that's going in the book. That's a grudging. They're just very angry little guys. I love them. If it comes short, it's going in the book. They also have the Slayer faction, which are you have to die in honor, which is like the Grey Wardens, like that Grey Warden faction in Dragon Age. I love the dwarves in any fiction. So they're the nice dwarves. They're honorable. They keep to their contract. They're protective of their mountains. They just hold very long grudges. They have a very big book of grudges. Like anything to slight any dwarves, they remember. They're going to pay back generations from now. Their ancestors are going to fuck with your ancestor. Like if you cut off a dwarf on the highway right now, he's going to go home, write it in his family book of grudges, and 10 generations later, your great-great-great-great-grandson will have his card keyed by his great-great-great-great-grandson. And it's your fault. That's how long they hold grudges for, until the debt is cleared. So that's the main gimmick of their faction. There's a lot more to it, and really, there's not much more to it. It's basically typical modern dwarf shenanigans. Slayer faction, they want to die, they have guns, they have beer, they have alcohol. Very basic, and they're not prone to magic unless you're a chaos dwarf. So, next race, the Empire, or the Empire faction. Everyone's favorite faction. These are like the Ultramarines of the setting. Very boring in my opinion. But it's everyone's favorite faction, Karl Franz, Ultramarines, Space Marines. They're basically Germany. Reichland. They have guns. They have good magic. They're an all-rounder faction. They have everything. They're the basic bitch of the setting. You will get tons of lore about this faction. Just like you get tons of lore about Space Marines and nothing about the Necrons. It's very annoying. You have Karl Franz. You have Marcus Wolfhart. You have Elspeth. You have Volkir the Grim. And you have Gelt. I don't even want to go in this faction. They're so boring. They have steam tanks. They have fucking whatever. It's just Grand Cathy. New faction. China. But fantasy. They have dragons. They're ruled by Dragon Emperor. They also have peasants. Just like Bretonnia. They reuse that. Right now, they're good at everything faction. Because they're new. And they want people to sell the models. And to show the faction. They have guns. They have good magic. They have artillery. They have Super Dragon God. That was older than time itself. Blah, blah, blah. They have giant terracotta sentinels. And they're good at everything. They have dragon children. They're prone to corruption. They're friendly with the Empire. There's nothing bad about them so far. They're introducing the Grimdark portion about Grand Cathay later. So next faction, Greenskins. These are orcs. These are the orcs in this universe. They have goblins that are actually called goblins and not grots. They have orcs, which are spelled like orcs. And if you're familiar with Warhammer 40k, they're exactly the same. They're exactly the same, no difference. The only difference between these orcs and 40k orcs is that they don't have guns. The only difference is the goblins. The goblins play more of a role, and they have and they have magic. That's the only difference. The goblins are their magic sorcerers, and they're more of a main character. they're more powerful than the Grots in 40k. In 40k, the Grots, are just snotlings. They just do fucking nothing. The goblins in here, they can be soldiers. They do magic, artillery. They have main characters like Skarsnik. But a few notable orc lore is they have body paint, which can transfer to 40k. Basically, they paint themselves a certain color and they get stronger based on the color. And then there are also the black orcs, which are basically orcs that are experimented on, are bigger and more professional. But everything else is the same from the 40k version. High elves. The one that cheated the dark elves out of their rightful place in elf society. So these are basically the rich city elves. They live in cities. They don't live in forests. They're highly cultured, advanced. They have good archers. They have lots of good boats. They have good everything because they're elves. They live a long time. They're clean. They shower. Everyone's favorite elf. They're the good city elves. They are rich and look down on everyone else as peasants. That's their gimmick. They have gods and whatnot. Khorne, one of the 4 main demon gods. You're familiar with 40k or Warhammer at all, you know what Khorne is about. If you're new to the setting, he's a red demon god. It's the red faction. His faction is about violence and power. He governs the aspect of violence. That's a simplified version of it. Kislev, Russia, but fantasy. The old lore only had fucking Katerin, Tsarina Katerin. New lore has Konstantin, Boris, and Ostanka, which are created for this setting. They have bears, they have guns, and they're very brave soldiers. They live in Russia, which are teeming close to demons. They're near the demon nations, the demon country, the demon wastelands. They're near demons. So they have to be strong and resilient, fight against the code and the demons. They're all about being unbreakable and defending Mother Russia. Kislev. If you're familiar with Russian lore, their Slavic lore combined with whatever. They use Slavic monsters, creatures in the woods from Slavic lore, protect their homeland too. Most of the units are just named after Russian words. Streltsy, fucking, people complain a lot about this faction. I think you find a lot of red threads about Russians hating these factions because of how basic the names are. Ataman and Boyar, they just take random words in Russian and just make them into units or people. It's just they try to cater to Russian. They cater to a lot of factions for their the India, Arab, Arabi, Nippon, Japan, but fantasy. Lizardmen faction, not in 40k. Basically the old ones, which are in 40k. Descendants, they made the lizardmen. They're tuned to magic. However, they're dinosaurs and lizards. They're reptiles and lizards. That's where they put all of these models and characters. If you're a reptile, meaning a dinosaur or a lizard, you go into faction. They just serve as a point to make cool dinosaur and lizards. There are big chameleons, big T-Rexes, big lizards, all types of lizards. All the lizards. If you see a lizard, they're in this faction. And they have these Slann, which are powerful mage wizards that the old ones personally made. And there's Krolk, the undead lizard, who died and is the strongest mage in the setting. He is so strong that when he died, he said, I think not. And he just lived on as a ghost. A ghost that can still puppet his body and cast magic on the living world. He's the only character that can do that. He's dead, but still active in the setting because he is so powerful that death could not stop him. He fought like 6 magic. I think it was like 8. It was like a lot of bloodthirsters. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head. But he fought like a bunch of bloodthirsters at once that was immune to magic. Blessed by Khorne. He was like, yeah, you're not really immune to magic because I say so. And he killed them and died as well after holding a giant barrier off a city for like years. For like years, he held like a giant barrier. And he was still able to fight off several magic immune bloodthirsters. It killed him with magic. And in the Age of Sigmar setting, he was so powerful. One of the meme short stories had him rearranging the fucking stars into a face of a smiling frog. And then casting down meteors on demons. He's dead, by the way. He's a ghost. He was able to rearrange the stars in the sky and unload meteors onto his opponent. But Flares, if he was so broken, and if he is the most powerful magic character in his setting, acknowledged by everyone who's into the lore, why doesn't he just win? Because Games Workshop, their fucking insistence on keeping the setting stagnant is that the reason he doesn't just end the setting is because he's following the great plan. So the Lizard faction fights get chaos. They're super powerful. Their magics they're powerful in every regards with magic. They're so good at magic. However, they're working for the great plan. The great plan. What is the great plan? We don't know. Games Workshop probably also doesn't know. So anytime you're wondering why they don't just save the world, they just don't just end everything, don't worry. Everything they do is to forward the great plan, which is alluded to win everything. That is what the goal is. We know what the goal is basically, is to win against the Chaos Gods. They're going to win. They're going to 360 no-scope all the Chaos Gods at once when the great plan gets started. Slaanesh, Khorne, Nurgle, Tzeentch, all of them don't know what's coming with the great plan because everything they have done is to forward the great plan. Even now, in the recent new lore, the new codexes in the Age of Sigmar, all they do is like, oh, Deslon talk for the first time. They're like, it's time for the great plan. That is the big tweeze. And everyone's, all the newcomers to the lore are like, oh my gosh, it's happening. It's happening. It's happening. It's been a thing for 40 years, folks. For like 40 years, folks. The great plan is never going to happen. It's like people who think the Emperor is going to come back in 40k. The great plan is never happening. It will kill the franchise. So everything they have to write themselves into a wall with any book, any codex. This Lizard faction is so good at magic. They're so good at magic, folks. They're the best at magic. The reason they don't win? They are winning. They're winning all the time. That retreat, part of the great plan. Half them die, part of the great plan. Why did Kroak die? Because of 6 months legends? He planned it all. It's part of the great plan. Don't you worry. When the great plan happens, they'll win. These guys will win the setting. It's not Sigmar that will win. It's the Lizardmen. Anyone who's deep in the Lizardmen copium will always say they're the faction that's going to win. The great plan. It's like the Necrons in 40k. Or like the Great Emperor in 40k. If the Necrons woke up and got all their old War in Heaven weapons, They no-diff the rest of the setting. It's been how many years? They're never going to all wake up, folks. Or the orcs. Every faction in any Warhammer setting always has something that says they could win if this happens. These guys will win. These guys are winning. They wrote that. These guys are winning. You just don't know it. No one knows what the great plan is. How does it work? Yeah, that's my main complaint about this faction. Norska, Vikings, but worship chaos. They're Vikings. Everything about they live close to the chaos wastelands, close to demons, and rather than the rest of humanity who fight against demons, they worship the demons. But they're not full-blown chaos mutation. They just respectfully worship them. They're not all of them are corrupted. There are a couple of them that don't actually, they just worship them as like regular gods. They see them as strong gods. They're Vikings. They go raid regular settlements. They say around the word raid to bring back resources to their thing. And in the old lore, they brought back women as well. Again, they retcon all the rape and all the sex stuff out of Warhammer, which is good. I personally enjoy. If you're gonna have to do it, just off screen it. I don't think it should be a thing. I don't think we should promote that. But again, it's fiction, so can't do one thing or another. They also have big monsters. They have like ice dragons. They have woolly mammoths. They have fucking ice trolls, etc. But they're Vikings and trolls, and they go raiding. I'll go in deep dive into a longer video. Nurgle, green stinky demons. Easy way, god of pestilence, green stinky demons. They heal. They have warts. They're the average person at a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. Next faction, Ogre Kingdoms. Mongolian raiders that are fat and big. They're ogres, but they're different from other ogres in fantasy. They're just big and fat, and the fatter you are, the more important you are. Because they see fat people as wealthy and strong, because you need to have a lot of money and be very strong to be able to eat that much food. That's like old society. And they actually do get stronger the fatter they are. That's how orc physiology works. They also ate the mountain. The giants. The giants are another faction which are not in this game. Like they're real. The Sky Titans. The Sky Titans used to live in the mountains. Used to be very peaceful. The Sky Titans used to be the biggest race in the world of Warhammer. The ogres ate them. Because they were peaceful, and they were scattered, and they were lonely hermits. Think Jack and the Beanstalk. They live alone, they're giants, and the ogres wore them down, and they ate them. And now they control the mountains. And some of them are mercenaries. So there are 3 main ogre types, of Warhammer Fantasy. There's the Greece's go-to regular orcs go raiding, making money, trading caravans. So that's the first main one. Greece's go-to, richest character, very strong. He got done dirty in the end times. Got killed by Grimgor, which is an orc. So these, most of them are basically toll, tax, get money, raid for food. Then there's the guy like Scrad the Scholar, which are about sacrificing to the Great Maw, which is their god. Basically, the new lore has the fucking Chinese dragon god tossing a meteor at the ogres way back in, creating a god, because it created a deep hole, and they worship it, and it transformed into like an ever-hungry maw that eats, so they worship the god that eats, which exists on the planet, and they toss meat into the hole. That is the lore. They sacrifice meat to the meat god, the hungry god, the Great Maw. And this guy has hooks hanging to his back that he cooks people. They eat people. They go around, they pillage villages for food. Not your food. You. That's another subsect of the ogre. And then you have the gold fag ogres. Again, this is old. They still kept the name. His name is actually Goldfang. Goldfag. It's spelled Goldfag. It's Goldfang, Mang, and Mang-Eater. I don't know why they didn't just add the N to it, but that's his name. He created the Man-Eaters. So these are ogre mercenaries. I don't know why I keep saying orcs. Ogre mercenaries. Now, ogre mercenaries are what you would expect. They go to fucking different countries. They sell their service to highest bigger for money and food. And they're quite prominent. And the funny thing about them, you find a lot of funny in models, especially in the new setting. They adapt, quote unquote, adapt and disguise themselves in any culture. So you get some pretty, I think it's, I mean, I don't want to use the word because people say this too much, but it's not racist, but it looks like a race. I love it. I'm Asian. All the Asian ogres looks like the most racist depiction of Asians, fat Asians ever. And I love it. I love it. I love it. So they disguise themselves as ninjas. They try to adapt to whatever society they're near. So they dress up in different clothing. That's why all the ogre models in the tabletop series have them dressed as, ninjas, peasants, knights in ill-fitting armor, fucking weebs, fucking noblemen, fucking wearing monocles. So they just adapt to whatever society, but they still look like an ogre. Like an extremely fat, obese monster that's like 10 feet tall. So that's great. That's great in the setting. And they're also dumb. They've gotten smarter over the years with the retcons, but they used to be dumb as fuck. Just like the Ogrins in the 40k settings, who used to be like fucking brain dead. They used to be like so dumb, you wonder how they can't, how do they breathe, take care of themselves. Now the new good retcons, they're Forrest Gump level of dumbs, which is great. Everyone loves the new retcon. I don't know anyone IRL who dislike that they made Ogrins and Ogres smarter. They're now just Forrest Gump level. Like, they're just now that level of dumb. Like, you're your best friend dumb. Like, your best dumb friend, Patrick Starfish dumb now. Rather than, 3-year-old dumb. I love ogres and ogrins. Whatever you want to call them. So yeah, ogres, great faction. Skavens. Skavens, not a thing in 40k. A lot of people want to bring them into 40k. They're one of the most popular factions in Warhammer Fantasy and the Old Worlds. Everyone loves these guys because they're so funny, full of character, and the way they talk. The way they talk is they do like man things, war things, screams, I, me, my. So they use like conjunctions whenever they talk. Sometimes they use two words together, plan scheme. So I plan scheme this morning. I ate devour my lunch. I went go to the mall. I shop at grocery store outlet. So basically, whenever they talk, a word, they use two words at once, like synonyms. Like you say, I kill someone. You don't say, I kill someone. You're talking in Skaven. You say, I murder kill you. It's very cute. Everyone loves them. Do not, they have Skaven slaves. Now, I will warn you, the community is split. People who love Skavens and people who love Skavens. Now, there are people who love Skavens, do not go to Skaven slaves. There's a subreddit known as Skaven slaves. Now you would think it was just a themed subreddit talking about the Skaven faction. Do not go there. Do not go there. Do not go there. Please do not go there. Please, for the love of God. Sometimes I see people redirect new Skaven fans to the Skaven Scan subreddits. I'm going to warn you now. It's porn. It's porn. Okay? It's adult content. The reason why it's called Skaven slaves is because people who want to be Skaven slaves, who want to be bred by the Skavens, these rat creatures. There's an uptick of people, of girls, like you think these are just like, dude, no. These are actual, like, females, girls, women, and a couple of gay guys too. But primarily, for some reason, woman. I don't understand. I'm a dude. If you're a girl watching this video, please explain. There are a couple of articles in modern days like why Hollywood is casting these rodent-faced men. People are like loving people who looks like rats nowadays, like Jeremy Allen from The Bear. All these Timothy Chalamet, all these guys who look like rodents. It's hot for girls. And some of them go to the stream and they like the Skavens, which are little rats. And they want to get bred by these rat monsters. I cannot explain it. I do not understand it. I can only explain that there's a sizable portion of the community who writes lots of fan fiction about being bred and enslaved by the Skavens. Being abused by literal rats. Literal rats. What's sexy about these literal rats? I don't understand, dude. I don't know. I don't know, dude. Figure it out. Explain it to me. Slaanesh. Horny demons. Now the god of excess. Pink demons. They're horny demons. The only thing different about this from Warhammer 40k version is we have T'Challa and a couple of Warhammer Fantasy unique Slaanesh characters. Like T'Challa and Sigvald. T'Challa, Slaanesh elf. That's a snake. Sexy. However, I'm going to talk about in depth a little bit in this video, more in the longer video if these videos are popular and people like this. So, Sigvald. Sigvald the Magnificent is the best part of the demons in the fantasy lore. I love Sigvald. He looks like a normal, handsome influencer man. No corruption, no weird mutation. That's his thing. He's narcissist. He loves himself so much, he has a mirror guard. His shield is a mirror, so he looks at his own perfection. He's very vain, and he talks in lots of S's. So, Sigvald, sprightly, smoothly, like, that's how he talks. He just uses S words. A lot. Sigvald seduces, speedily, Slaaneshi. I can't do it. Sigvald does it way better. But that's his entire lore. He loves himself. He loves himself. If he were to have sex with someone, it would be himself. So, Tomb Kings. I love Tomb Kings. They're Egyptian mummies. Undead. Who combined with Alexander the Great. So basically, Setra, which is the whole reason Tomb Kings came about, was basically Alexander the Great in Egypt. He started conquering the entire world, making a huge emperor. He was a very powerful general. He was like Giga Chad in everything. He was everything, but he realized that age will take him before he was able to conquer the world. He will not live forever. So he tasked his followers, his mortuary cults he established. Okay, I'm going to entomb myself in a tomb. You guys research necromancy. You guys research body preservation. And in 1,000 years, 10,000 years, when you figure out how to make it perfect, how to resurrect me perfectly, bring me back so I can reconquer the world. And every ruler after him in Nenekhara did the same thing. They entombed their body in giant pyramid tombs. So that one day, when they finally figure out how to properly resurrect someone, no blemishes, they're going to resurrect Setra and all the other Tomb Kings so they can redo their conquests of the world. And the mortuary cults. How do the mortuary cults live so long? They used like the bad versions of the resurrections because they did not want to come back as skeletons or zombies. They did not want that. They want like real, full-blown, good resurrection. Once you figured out the magic, folks, worked out all the kinks so our skin doesn't fall off, all that, bring us back. Once you figured out all the bugs, the necromancy skills, however, you guys use the shit Walmart, Costco version of prolonging your life. So all the mortar cults, all the people were researching, the followers researching, they live for 1,000 years, they keep on researching, extending their lives for like random means, like brain in a jar, becoming a Lich King, all that garbage, all the, uncouth versions of prolonging their life. They did that so they can research prolonging life. However, a couple of thousands of years later, long time period later, one of the mortar cult members, Nagash, which is a god of death in Age of Sigmar now, everyone's familiar with him, he basically is like, what if I ruled everything? And he resurrected people. All the old Tomb Kings got resurrected early before they worked out all the kinks, and they got big mad. They got big mad at Nagash is an easy way to summarize it. And Setra fought back against Nagash. They have big rivalry because Setra is like the original king. And he, like, bitter war. And Setra does not kneel. And that's like the best part of the end time. Setra does not kneel. So they're all back. They're angry. And that's why they're better undeads than like other undead factions. Because they're most of the way there to living, but not all the way there. They're not all the way there. They still have their skin falling off. They're all mummified. Because again, they were released too early. Early access game. Unfortunate. And they're just super angry, protecting their homeland, that they got resurrected without their skin or organs. I don't know what they kept most of their skin. They kept most of their skin, their bones. They look better than some of the other undeads in the fantasy. They're just missing some body parts. They're a bit decaying. They're not decaying that much because they have really good body preservation. They're just mummies with skeletons. They're one of the undead factions. I don't know what they guys complain about. They can't eat anymore. They don't know the touch of food. And they can't enjoy most things. But it could be worse. I don't know what they're so angry about. Yeah, that's their lore. They're just angry at Nagash, a necromancer, who resurrected them a little too early. A little too early. They did not work out all the kinks of the revival spell yet. So, they're undead. And they're great. Tzeentch. Blue Chaos God. Of knowledge and plans within plans and within plans within plans that they don't know about. Anyone who read for Warhammer 40k knows about Tzeentch. You find way better guys talk about it. The reason is, I'm going to gloss over this. There's nothing really different from Tzeentch in Warhammer Fantasy from Warhammer 40k. They use the same characters. There's only one character difference, which is Egrim, which is not in Total War. That's the only core difference between Tzeentch, because every other unit and character also in 40k. 40k, Tzeentch is one of the least developed demon gods in the setting. He's been neglected a lot. He's not really that popular even in the tabletop. I don't know why. I like him, but I think because his models aren't as good as the other units. Aren't as good as Nurgle, because Nurgle models are probably the best models of all the 4 demon gods, because you get very creative with Nurgle. Nurgle and Khorne are the 2 best Chaos God factions in terms of popularity, because their models are just very, very good. So, Vampire Coast. The Vampire Coast. They're pirates, but vampires. You think it doesn't work? It works. They're pirate vampires. They're vampires that use guns. So I'll go over it into a longer video on them. So their main faction leader is Luthor Harkin. This guy's whole thing is he was a good vampire mage, one of the best vampire necromancer who went to America. I mean the New World. And start digging for relics from the Lizardmen. You know that super OP powerful faction I talked about earlier, who were connected to the Old Ones, who have the best magic in the universe, who are like the strongest magical faction, following the great plan. Well, he went to America, and he started raiding their fucking temples, their Aztec and Mayan temples, and they're stealing their magic. And one of the magic artifacts he stole broke his mind. He went crazy. So he can't use magic anymore. And he was super good at magic. So he's a crazy pirate with lots of personality, who's sometimes not crazy. And he's a genius who's not able to use his full genius. He's described in a lot of lore as being one of the smartest vampires, one of the best vampire necromancers, the best, most powerful. Oh my gosh, his undead crew, he would shit on Vlad. He would shit on all the other vampires. He's so powerful. If he wasn't crazy, if he did not lose his magic, if only his mind was not broken by the relic. And you're going to see this in a lot of Warhammer lore. Every faction has a character like this. Has a character like, this character would style, would destroy, would step on everyone else in the setting. If only this one small thing was different. If only he wasn't crazy and lost his magic from raiding the Lizardmen tomb for their artifacts and getting cursed. And he can break his curse once he gathered all 7 Dragon Balls. Once he goes to all the fucking Lizardmen temples and collect all the tablets, all the artifacts together, all the Dragon Balls, and then he will become the most powerful vampire mage the world has ever known. He just needs to pirate and loot all the Dragon Balls. That's the lore behind Luthor Harkon. That's the main thing. That's why he's a pirate. He's going around the world pirating and raiding until he finds the Dragon Balls. Will he find all the Dragon Balls? Tune out next time in Vampire Coast Z. Next character, Count Nautilus. These are all minor ghosts and vampire counts. Nothing but right home about it. It's basically that guy and everyone else. I'll go over everyone else longer video. Vampire counts. Now, in this game, they group up all the vampires into one faction, whereas in the tabletop, there are many different vampire factions. But this one, they want to simplify it. So I'm going to go over the main ones. Manfred von Karstein, which carried over to Age of Sigmar. Everyone hates this guy. He's the reason why the end times happen. He's a betrayed vampire. His whole gimmick is that he's very smart. He's very conniving. He's a big schemer. He's probably the current smartest vampire. Smarter than the crazy guy, because he's crazy. However, his big weakness, he's one of the most powerful vampire mages. He's very powerful. He's very smart. He's so smart. He's looking for Nagesh's tombs. He's collecting all the books. He reads a lot of books. He knows so much magic. He's collecting all the forbidden magic of the world. He's so smart, guys. He's written as being super smart, conniving schemer. He's too careful. That's his biggest weakness. That's why he doesn't win everything. He's too indecisive. Like, so many times, he's described he could win this entire war. But he was too scared. Because what if that faction had this super Dragon Ball super secret weapon? He wouldn't dare attack them. So he's waiting. He's waiting until he gets enough power to 100% guarantee to destroy every other faction. And that's his weakness. He never expands. He never ever grows his faction. He never ever executes a plan that would increase his power base unless he's 100% certain it would work. He never takes risks. He's too careful. He is potential man. I could take over, but what if they're an enemy protagonist and they have plot armor? I'm not going to attack them. I'm just going to chill and do nothing in the setting, nothing in the lore, until it's time to betray someone, until I'm careful. So that's his weakness. That's how they write him, as not being OP. He doesn't do anything because he's scared. He's a coward. He's a coward in most of his lore because he thinks highly of his opponent. Whereas every character is like, everyone's weak. He's like Sima Yi. If you're familiar with the Three Kingdoms lore, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, he's like Sima Yi, the Zhuge empty fort strategy. He's like, they have nothing. It's a trap. Not falling for that. You think I'm retarded? You're retarded. You think I don't know? You have that secret army outside your empty castle? I see what you're planning. And every other faction was like, the fuck, he's not doing anything. They can just kill our entire faction right now. Holy shit, he's so powerful. He's just standing there, staring at me. And in his mind, he's thinking like, you think you're gonna get me? You think you're gonna get me? I'm not gonna attack you. I'm gonna go home. I raided through your villages. Yeah, right. I crippled your economy. I almost brought you to the brink of ruin. I could easily strive in, take your capital city, and loot all of your important relics right now, and become 10 times more powerful. If only I attack and finish you off right now. Right. Yeah, fuck off. This is him. Fuck off. I know what you're planning. You have some kind of super secret weapon in your city that's gonna destroy my entire army and kill me. You're not killing me. I'm Manfred. I'm gonna live forever. Okay? I'll just wait. I'll come back in 100 years with a better army. And that super weapon you have hiding will stand no chance. You guys are acting all scared right now with all your fucking emergency plans. I see you for your plans. It can't be this easy to win, okay? I crippled your entire army within like a month. I know it's not that easy to take over a kingdom. I've been in the taking over empire and kingdom business for a long time, folks, okay? I've lived for a long time. I've seen all. And it's not that easy to take over a kingdom. I've never taken over a kingdom yet. One day I will. But I know it's a lot harder than it makes eggs out to be. So I'll be back. I'll be back. And they just rebuild their society. And he comes back next time and he crushed them to a pulp. Or they win sometimes. And sometimes he wins. Back and forth, the lore. Sometimes they give wins against Manfred. He comes back. And every time he almost wins, he's like, I see what's going on here. I see what's going on here. You're letting me win. You're letting me win. All right, I'm going back home. If you're not gonna bring out your full army, if you're not gonna take this seriously, you're gonna apply these like stupid ass traps that you think I'm gonna fall for. I'm smart. You're retarded. Oh yeah, you think you're great playing to lure me in that trap? No. Going back home. Yeah, every time he wins, he does that. So many times. That's how they nerfed this character. And I find it hilarious. So Vlad von Karstein and Isabel von Karstein, they're the biggest romance power couple in the setting. They actually love each other. I'm going to the romance story. It needs to be a longer video before going to Vlad and Isabella. Vlad, lots of what ifs. Like he might be a very powerful Tomb King. Way back when. It's alluded to. Like V. But we don't know. And they never revealed it. So, no idea. But Vlad is the real good. She's like the strongest vampire. In pure strength, physical might, not smarts, not magic. But in terms of power, battle ability, Vlad, best vampire for that. His wife, hot. Helman Ghost is the zombie king. So, this guy, sad story. So, he and his brother and father suffered. They all love each other. And plague, blah, blah, blah. He tried to travel to the vampires and the evil undead factions to figure out how to heal and cure his family of the plague. On the way there, they died. And he met another necromancer, another vampire. They reanimated his siblings and his father to be his slaves. His mind got broken, and now he's an evil, powerful necromancer. And his brother and his siblings are carrying him around in his cart as zombies. That's his lore. Powerful necromancer, mind broken. Now he's a powerful necromancer. That's it. Warrior of Chaos. So these are all, random characters that are very important settings put together in one faction. But I'm going to say the noteworthy ones that I think should be in 40k. Valkia, Khorne's concubine. His waifu, great. Add her to 40k, please. Archeon, Abaddon, if he was competent and cool. I hate Abaddon. Abaddon with his stupid ponytail. So dumb. Yeah, and everyone else is just plain. Wood Elves, the last faction. They're elves but hippies. Elves but hippies, but Wood Elves are actually two factions combined into one for Total War. So, Wood Elves are the actual Wood Elves and the trees, the Dryads. So, there's Orion, which is an elf god, which every season he gets reborn and starts conquering the world and expanding the forests of the Wood Elves. And then at the end of the season, he dies. And then he gets reborn as someone else. And he starts over again. Never-ending cycle. He is described as very strong. If only the seasons last longer, he would win. That is this faction's hopium. If only they figure out a way to make Orion live forever and not just die when the season ends, they would win. You have the Dryka, which is an angry tree spirit who, after having her forest burned and whatnot for over and over by the humans and the elves exploiting Mother Nature, she went mad, and now she hates all humans, and now she wants to kill everyone with her tree people. And she has wood elves helping her, not out of their own will. She casts some kind of like poison ivy spores and mind controls people without their consent. And she's an angry tree. She's angry tree faction. That's it. And then there's the Sisters of Twilight, which are the most popular elves besides Morathi. Most popular wood elves for sure. Why? They're twins. That's all you need to know. They're elves, and they're twins, and they have a twin gimmick where they each wear a half mask. There is a lot of art about them. And when I say art, I'm using quotation marks. There's a lot of art about them, written or otherwise. The Sisters of Twilight, there is so much art featuring them. They're very popular among the fan base. Everyone loves them. Maybe a little bit too much. What's their lore? One has black hair. One has a lighter color hair. One is nicer. One is not so nice. They're that. You can see why they're so popular. Everyone fetishizes this kind of dichotomy. Their thing is they're handmaidens of the tree elf goddess. That's they ride hawks and they're good at arrows. And they're sexy. That's all you need to know. And that's why they're great for most people. So that concludes this general overview. And my editor is going to figure out a way how to make this into several videos.